Good evening and welcome to the October 22nd, 2024 work session of the Mayor and City Council for the City of Hagerstown. This meeting is now called to order. And first we have Reimagining Hagerstown Community Development, and that is the Mayor and Council members discussion. Who would like to kick us off? And we have Kathy Martin. Good evening. Good evening. Scott, you wanna kick us off? Or
This is just a follow-up from the July presentation that Councilman Schindler provided. Things kind of went, priority might have taken over once we had the issues from the letter that was received. So this unfortunately took a back burner, but have PCAD staff here that have gone through the presentation and just have a chance to have some discussion based upon what was in there. So,
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So I know at this point, the administration is about to change. There's really not anything at this point to vote on or to do at this point. But, I do think that it's valuable to have a conversation and to talk and just to kind of see, what we can do to help you guys. Really, I mean, the way I see things is at some point in time, we as a council, we meaning the body, elected body, directed directed the code department to be hard on code and to try and I guess I don't know the mentality you want to say, but at this point, I hear over and over again, we want to try to get to a yes with developers. I know code is code. We want enforce code, and we want code to be what it is. But what can we do to help? I mean, I know you guys saw the presentation that was put together, and that was born out of some best practices that we saw some other places, some ideas of how things maybe could be reorganized or how some additional support could be given to try and help. But really, from my perspective at this point, I mean, what can we do to help? I don't know if that looks like more staff, if that looks like, some of the changes in here. If these changes aren't, then maybe we come up with a plan that works for everybody. But I mean, I guess I kind of open up to you guys to see what thoughts you have. I see you got some handouts here with some information on them. But, we would like to see, I would like to see, I'll speak for myself, but I would like to see us change that mentality, especially when it comes to new businesses, is to try to see what we can do to help facilitate as best as we can, help get to a yes, in any way that we can help facilitate when it comes to code-related issues. So.
Okay. What we handed out was, one document that we handed out is questions. We had questions because there were some statements made about PCAD that were pretty negative, and we weren't sure what was meant. So that's what one of these documents is, as well as some examples of, we're trying to figure out what you would mean by some of these things about getting to yes and incentivizing things and so forth. And also at the back of that report, there is information about abatements and notices that were written over the years. And for example, in terms of getting to yes, in the last 4 years, for weeds, snow, and securing properties, and weeds includes clearing debris, people just junk up their yard. And we wrote over 5,800 notices between 21 and 2024, but only 27% of those we had to abate. So that means that we had a lot more of people actually coming into compliance. So we don't start with, I see there's a problem there. Call Public Works, let's get it cleaned up. We give people a chance to take care of it. We don't just jump straight to the ultimate penalty. And as you can see from that data, over 70, almost 3/4 of the time, people did it themselves. We didn't have to take the abatement. And we do, from a permitting standpoint, we work a lot with prospects that are coming to the city for economic development. We get together with DCED, which is why we were surprised about statements that we were siloed from DCD. We used to be together in one department between 2012 or 2010 and 2015 when the person resigned who was over that large department, and so then they split us to two more manageable departments, not having to have someone over both sides. And we have maintained those close relationships that we had working together with DCED, so that anytime we get prospect information from zoning or people wondering what they can do with the property, we always keep Doug Reeser and Jill Thompson in the loop, and in fact invite them to meetings. If we're meeting with prospects, they invite us to meetings, and in fact we often have large meetings that DCD organizes that includes us, fire marshal's office, utilities, so that we can let prospects know up front. They can tell us what they're planning. We could let them know what the review process is like, what the time frame is. And every time we have those meetings, the people go away very happy. And they're like, I love working in Hagerstown. I wish it was like this down the road where I work. So we have a lot of positive interactions with folks that are coming here. Where we tend to run into trouble is when people, usually local folks with just a couple of properties, don't want to get permits or don't want to maintain the property, and that tends to put them at odds with us because we are tasked with making sure properties are up to code, particularly the rental licensing ones that we have to look at every year from the exterior and every 4 years or a tenant turnover on the interior. And so that's where I'm sure the complaints are coming from. You're not hearing from the Amazons and those sort of folks. You're hearing from the more local folks who have a few rental properties. But we work really hard to get compliance. But as some of the data Paul pulled up, when we adopted the code back in like 2018 or 2019 to try to get some inspections of the units that have never been inspected since we created the program back in, when was it?
2003.
2003. And we sent out, please, we would like to do a safety inspection of your unit. It's never been inspected. And to this point, over 70% of the people we reached out to with all of those units have refused to voluntarily comply. So there's sometimes you're not going to get to voluntary compliance if people don't want to interact with the code office. But one thing that would be very helpful is we are both on the planning side and the code side tight staff-wise, which makes it difficult to do all the hand-holding that would be desired. We do as much as we can, but it's tight. Some of the building and the trade inspectors, they could have 10, 11, 15 inspections in a day, so they got to keep moving. And when they show up at a site and someone hoped they'd be ready the day before, but they're not quite ready yet, and they're like, can you wait? Can you hang around? And we're like, no, I've got 6 more to do, but if I can, I'll swing back. So, I mean, that's a challenge. Another challenge is we have a lot of meetings that Paul attends to help out Blaine's side of the house, going to progress meetings when these big projects are underway so that everybody knows where they are with permits. We know if they're going to make changes, so they know what permits are still left open. So there's a lot of times that Paul has spent doing that kind of assistance that people from economic development really want because they want to keep things moving. But really, it would be helpful if there was someone on Blaine's side in his shop that could be helping with that. So another staff person on his side, not only to help with those, but also to provide backup for the inspections, because we only have 1 electrical inspector, 1 plumbing mechanical inspector, 2 building inspectors. So when they're out, Blaine is not only plan review and answering questions about the code, he's out in the field doing inspections. And so there is definitely a shortage there. On the planning side, we have been down since
2008, 2009.
yeah, we used to have a planning director, it was me, and I still have that because in this organization, when you give people more, you don't take away, it just piles on more. So I'm not only the director of DCED, I'm still, or PCAT, I'm still the planning director. And then we have a zoning administrator and a planner, and the planner tends to be someone this is their first planning job, which makes it very tight because then it means the planning director and the zoning administrator are covering a lot because the new person has no experience, doesn't understand it. We really need the senior planner back that the department used to have when it was planning. So you're not constantly hiring someone who's 22, just out of school, has to learn the job. Then you have people who are strapped for time who don't have time to train, that much training that has to happen. And so it's just we put a lot on Steve back there in the back row, and it's just not fair. And when I retire, which is coming, when Steve retires in several years, it's going to be hard to find new people who want to take on all that we have piled on us, because it's just, here you go, it's just a little bit more, you'll be okay. A new person coming in, they're going to struggle with that idea. So we can't keep piling on just because the staff are taking it and working really long, crazy hours. We got to be thinking about what is right, what's fair for the organization as well as the staff that we have. So that would be very helpful.
Good. Madam Mayor, are we going to?
Yeah, just talk.
Just
Yeah,
go
I just
ahead.
wanted someone to kick us
Okay,
off. Yeah.
all right. A couple of quick questions specific to what you just mentioned, Kathy, and then kind of a bigger question. So about additional inspectors, additional planners. So my understanding and kind of being part of this current budget process, in the beginning of the year, roughly in January, maybe February, the departments start to assemble your budget requests for the next fiscal year. That works kind of out of our site, internally with the staff. It goes up to the city finance officer and then to the city administrator. So in that process, was there a request for additional positions? And because I'm thinking, we kind of drank from a fire hose as, 300 pages of budgets were presented over a couple of weeks in various pieces. So I don't know the answer to this question. Did you ask for additional positions, and were they included in the budget that we approved for July 1st?
Didn't ask for planning, but I did ask on Blaine's side. But there's competing priorities for that kind of thing, and so
I
PCAT didn't
understand.
rise up to the top.
Okay, so it didn't make it to the budget.
Right.
The other part that I had, the other question, well, I agree 100% with the way you characterize the issues of, kind of where things come from, where complaints come from, if you will. And To be honest, and, I'll speak for myself, but I'm pretty confident the mayor and council feel, if it's rising to the level of a mayor and council email or letter, then it's probably the biggest complaints, right? Every once in a while, every once in a blue moon, I see something that's a compliment, but generally that's not human nature. Human nature is, if I'm going to do something, it's because I need to complain about something. So while it is true that we see the problem issues, we don't see all the things that go well and smoothly and what have you. So what I'm getting to that is what I don't know or what I don't understand is at one point in the history of your department, planning and code administration, planning and code were combined into what is now today PCAD.
It was before that. In 2010, the city took about 5 or 6 departments that were individual departments and pulled them all together into one Department of Community and Economic Development. And so between 2010 and 2015, we were all together. In 2012, we split into 2 divisions, which is basically, well, not exactly what it is today's DCED because communications came downstairs. But then PCAD was the second division. So from 2012 to 15, we were in divisions. In 2015, that's when DCED, the department, split into the 2 departments of DCED and PCAD. Before 2010, planning was an independent department with economic development, and code administration was in the engineering department.
Okay. So I'm sure it looked good on paper or it looked good at the time. And I personally don't have any real interest in relitigating what the reasons were for doing all that. But, at the same time, I'm wondering, knowing, even though there's a symbiotic relationship between planning and zoning and code enforcement and so forth, if it isn't maybe time to rethink that combination of what is currently your department and have planning focus on planning, run by a planner, which you are, have code administration focus on inspections and administration, run by a code person, and so forth and so on. Under some auspices, and I'm going to take a second and insert here, the other thing that I found in some of the research that I've done on this is that, there are cities and towns, even smaller than Hagerstown, that have, I don't know, maybe the best way to put this, but that don't all rely on one city administrator and then all the department directors. That there are deputy administrators that then oversee big chunks of city government. So I'm going to kind of insert that thought into my comment because, if there is a plan then to separate planning from code, so, for example, then that would still have to have some semblance of structure, and I think at this point, Hagerstown is large enough and sophisticated enough to deserve a deputy administrator or multiple, at some point down the road. And I guess those are my thoughts, and I'd love to hear everybody's feedback, including fellow council.
So I can fill you in because I was here during all that time as well and was kind of a victim of the same thing that those folks were under on the first floor, because I was originally an IT manager who then became the director over a customer service department, a tax collection treasury function, and an IT department. So that all occurred during the bust of 2008, 2009, when we had layoffs. I think there were probably 20-some people laid off at that point in time. And these departments were all conglomerated into what they were in 2009, to which their department was really the one affected the most. And then probably my group was probably second. But
It also helps to have fewer direct reports to the city administrator.
yeah, no, I'm not gonna refute that at all. And you are right that there are towns that are a fifth of our size that might have 2 or 3 deputy city administrators. And the other piece where I was going with that is that we went 10 years, Michelle's back here. We went 10 years with basically no growth to the accessible tax base. So when it came time to try to do anything on a more progressive nature as far as capital improvements and even staffing, we were pretty much hamstrung. And that was back when we didn't have to deal with public safety because we had 105 officers and we had plenty of firefighters. So we didn't have to worry about that staffing level. Well, then it was only 2019, maybe, right before COVID, that things started taking an uptick. Assessed value started to go up. We started getting a little bit more economic development. The crew back here in DCED started changing the way they were doing some things and reevaluating and really making some strides, and then COVID hit. And that was 6 months into when I became administrator, because these are the things we talked about, was trying to reevaluate how city government was structured. When COVID hit, that stopped. But the gift and the curse of that is COVID is when economic development started taking off. Am I right back there? Was when we started getting the warehouses. We started getting other development come in that was really growing the accessible tax base. And then also when it comes to these guys, they are not funded primarily through the general fund. They are through the general fund, but they have a lot of their funding through the fees and the license stuff and the license money revenue that they collect. So they kind of were a self-sustaining group then
On the code side,
on the code side, not on the inspection side.
not on the planning side.
And yeah, and planning has always been kind of one of those, I don't understand why this is here situations, which was something we were going to look to do. So once COVID hit, it's taken 3 years. Last year was really the first real budget year we had to look and say, what can we do with some of these departments? We reorganized the utilities department, put all of that under one umbrella to where they had their own structure. We put parks back in with Public Works. It had not been part of Public Works in 20, 30 years. To streamline that a little bit, got Eric, an assistant director of Public Works, to help that organization out. This is the natural next step. The only caveat that came in there was public safety and the issues we were having with the migration of folks out of law enforcement and having to try to come up with additional funding to help recruit and retain, which is where kind of the last budget came in, where we started investing in drone technology and all the things related to public service or public safety. Now we are at a point where I 100% agree with you that we need to re-engineer this group here. What that's going to look like, I don't know. I know that for all intents and purposes, in my opinion, that it's not through a charter amendment putting these folks under a contract. I think then that just does nothing but politicize the position. And if you're going to politicize code enforcement or economic development, I really think you're setting yourselves up for problems. But I think at the same time, I think this group could be restructured out of the old DCED model that at the time, it may have made sense because we had lost, 20% of our tax base at the time, if not more. And we're struggling to even make it, through the budget year anyway, with the decrease we had in tax revenue in 2008. So the decisions made then were made then. Now we are finally at the point where we've got a little bit of funding that we can look to utilize, and that's how we're gonna go back and reevaluate where these folks are gonna land.
Scott, Councilman, sorry, just one more thing.
Can you,
Well, come up,
can you
come
come
up
up?
here,
Why don't you
sit
just come sit,
down. You
please?
should be up here anyway.
Oh, she can sit with
Put shoes on, because I couldn't even see you back there.
You can be the attorney.
Yeah.
One of the things not unique to the city, not unique to Paul and Kathy's area, but since COVID, one of the other big things, you know, all the positives happening, all the boom on the economic development side. One of the things that has really hit is, for the first time in decades, the trend is more payroll and employee driven, where before, people were happy to come do government jobs. It wasn't about starting salary. It wasn't about working from home. It was all about the benefits. And now there is a shift. So I know Paul's had vacancies, and I know
Well, how long have you had
we have been
neighborhood
struggling
services?
to fill them.
Since Vicky's passing in July of last year.
Yeah,
And now we have a second one.
yeah.
We've been recruiting, they've been trying to interview, even myself in positions I've had. We kind of go on a roller coaster, but right now it is very heavily driven on an employee in a payroll side. And what we're seeing a lot of times, and I don't want to speak out of turn for Paul or anybody else, we can get 100 applications. And you can take the time, you can go through them, you can line up interviews. You can block off your calendar for days and line up all these interviews. And we are consistently having no shows, no call. Meaning, you might think you're interviewing 6 people, and you might be lucky to get 1 in the door. And of those 5 who didn't show up, half of them aren't even calling to say, can I reschedule? I've changed my mind. They just don't show up. So yes, things have changed. The assessable base fiscal year 24 was year 1. It was the second triennial that we didn't have a decrease or a decline in our assessed value. So, yeah. So a lot of things are driving it. Sorry, guys.
So, short answer to a long answer is yes, more staff definitely would be a help, especially with the way things are increasing, and they continue to increase with economic development. These guys are and if you heard it today in the Ways and Means Committee presentation at the ballpark, interest is going through the roof, but we have to be able to service that.
Also housing.
I want to specifically, if we could, look at the questions that were asked. And then in reference to the clarification requested on statements that were made in July. And then I just want to, I don't want these to go unanswered. And so if we could.
I mean, we just
maybe
got this, though. This is like pretty extensive. I'd rather not go line by line.
Well, we don't have to do line by line,
Okay.
but I want to every single one of them. If we do have an example, if we do have something in a way to answer them. And you're right, we did just get it, but
Yeah.
we could just, even if there's only 3 addressed, I don't want this in front of us and we don't at least
Well,
get that.
I just want to say that the ending of that conversation on July 16th was to include stakeholders in this conversation. That stakeholders and investors and developers and homeowners that, since I was appointed in 2017, I mean, Amazon is Amazon. It's a huge corporation. Lowe's is Lowe's. It's a huge corporation, deep pockets. But the investors and the developers that you've just referred to with 2 and 3 properties, the deep pockets aren't there. It's not the same dealing with Lowe's when there's a change that has to take place that costs thousands of dollars. It's not the same. So the presentation, and while I understand that there's going to need to be tweaks and some funding that needs to take place, but we hear from the stakeholders, and my suggestion would be that, throw away the thing from the past, whatever. throw away the July 16th presentation. And that we treat this and the complaints and concerns and things that we've heard where people don't want to do business here anymore, where there is development coming in, but a true philosophical change and approach to how your department and how we are welcoming businesses in a different manner, much like we did with the social issues when it was addressed that we needed to talk about crime and homelessness and addiction issues, things like that, that we break it down into small pieces. And that's how we form a better and more imaginative way to code and to its facilitative approach. I mean, it doesn't matter to me that that whole thing can get shredded. Doesn't matter. But I'm here to say that as a representative of the city of Hagerstown for the last almost 8 years, it's been where it's been difficult to do business within the city, within code, within PCAD. And I'm sorry,
What's an example, Councilwoman?
I mean, I can say personal examples and I
Yep.
can say like, you know, I'm not, this is not the forum to start calling out personnel. We talked about that. But I just think that, you know, and I'm thrilled to hear that there was, you know, I think that there was some coaching changes, some strategic ways of, you know, dealing with different personalities. And honestly, if you and your department are doing so many multiple things, it's really hard to be nice to everybody. I get it. It's really hard. It's really hard to be nice to everybody sitting in this seat because you hear lots of complaints, you're doing lots of things, right? So I just think that there needs to be, that presentation was looked at and talked about and reviewed by the people that built this city. Small developers, large developers, GHC, Chamber of Commerce, prior politicians. It wasn't just me, it wasn't just Matt. It was reviewed and looked at, and there was a lot of support for it. So in my mind, going back and ripping it up and starting over and actually hearing and listening to what's going on out there. Because we have a chance. We have the stadium, we have the Amazons, we have the warehouses, but the small and middle developers are what's coming in this next phase. And I think we, as a city, need to make it so we are wrapping our arms around them and being like, welcome, welcome. It is an absolute privilege to have you here in the city. And that's the approach that I want to feel as a developer myself, as a business owner, and I'm just laying it out there in an incredibly emotional, vulnerable state. So I apologize, but I don't want to go back and reading this. I mean, not all of you agreed with how to approach this. So there's no reason to go over, like, it's okay to change it.
So,
Well,
let me use an example,
an example.
because I think that that's important.
So I want to give some.
And I just want to use an example as a council member sitting here who has gotten feedback on one particular item. And I use this example because of the current state that it's in. And what I envision in my mind will occur from the start, meaning what we knew the commercial property as, to how it sits now, to what it may become in the future if some small developer looks at it for purchase. And I haven't been by it, so I don't know what the condition is. And I don't think that this conversation, and by the way, your second part here with the blue and the black, that's a much better document to look at, because as I read through it, all I could think about was this property and how it sort of fits in the equation is the old Hartles building, right? And three things happen here. As a
Yeah, it's on that's on Bellevue.
the vacated commercial property on Bellevue.
The old Freddy's. The old Freddy's.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Right.
Fred.
I knew what council you were meant.
My apologies. Sorry, I'm South End. I was thinking Hartles, you know. So, in that particular instance, there are a multitude of things happening and that are going to happen, right? And you get the complaints about it right now. And here's what isn't known. The neighborhood doesn't really know sort of what's going on with it, right? Unless you really, really want to get involved, you really don't sort of know where it rests in time. You know, that it was a beloved commercial establishment at one time a day. You get complaints about it. And after about the, year and a half worth of complaints and having to go out and having to address the issues and the abandonment and negligence and neglect and vandalism and things like that, you start to develop a personification of what this property is that isn't what you want it to be, right? And I can completely see the human nature side of things, working within that governmental process. You get about 2 years into this and somebody comes through the door and they want to do something with it, and you're like, and economic development staff sitting there going, yeah, let's try and get this person in the door with it. And compliance staff is sitting there going, man, this thing is a piece of junk eyesore, you know what I mean? It's got to go. And so somehow within that process, I use that as that example, is you have to find a way to remove that sort of 2 years worth of issues over it and be ready to embrace the opportunity that somebody who doesn't have that history can bring to it, and at the same time, during that period, satiate, maybe that's, I don't know if that's the right word, the neighborhood, projection of it. And that's an example where I can see, and I can completely see, if I was in code enforcement department, and I had to answer to that the multitude of times, and I had council members sending me emails about it, and I had, police having to go to it, and all those types of things, it would become that item on that radar where you would just, better if it wasn't there. And so when that transition point hits, I would just think that there has to be this process in place where that interest, would want to be embraced in a way that is holistic, meaning in that case, for something that's sat that long, and I don't think the answer is the same for every part, but I use this one as that, where I would almost have a process in place that schedules a sit down with that interested party and the various parts of city government that will play a role in that particular item, whether it's whether it's some grandfathered use that is no longer, I forget the right word, not conforming, what the code violations are, what the tax abatement issues are, and have that initial meeting so that there is that awareness, but in a way that I think speaks to Matt's point of, okay, here are these 12 issues associated with this property in a way that about 8 of them aren't real solvable. How do we figure out for this interested party, so that they know 2 things. One, of the issues, are they solvable? And 2, is it a venture that is palatable? Is something that you're going to want to engage in. And I think that 2 things happen in those occasions. One is, and I think speaking to the small development things, you could probably get yourself in a situation where you get turned off fairly quickly in the process, and I think enter into that sort of objectionable disposition, because not because of staff or because of the property itself, but because of the circumstance, of that trajectory of that property over time. And there's probably a dozen buildings downtown you can think of off the top of your head that fit that mold. Oftentimes, government's the one that ends up interceding, grabbing the building, right, and doing the flip process and getting it back into that track. We're talking about those instances where there's a multitude of times where it's really the private, effort that does that. That I think that we had to figure out a way to sort of embrace and put those cards on the table.
Well, let me answer some of those questions in general with that type of stuff there. So a lot of times you don't know what's going on behind the scenes or the elected officials on different things. I will meet with a lot of property owners that are interested in buying these vacant, dilapidated properties and turning them around. DCD staff's back there, they can know that my first words out of my mouth is, we have grants available to help you with this renovation. You need to contact Chris Simmerling with the DCED to get that started on these. These are the things that are outstanding with the property, but we need to, work through them to get them resolved. If you would take ownership, these are the items that we need to get addressed immediately so that we're eliminating some of these blighting influences in the community.
Paul, have you ever filled out one of those applications?
There are only 2 pages.
Have you ever had to submit all of the documents with it? Have you seen the amount? And Chris Simmerling and DC, I'm not saying that it is not, it is a wonderful program. But as business owners developing a new building, filling all of that out to get to all of that is exasperating. Exasperating. There's things that you have to worry about, foot traffic and getting your product and building your stuff and worried about code coming in. So filling all of that, I think it's wonderful, but it's not as easy as just like, hey, there's grants there. Get this filled out. And then you might get the grant, you might not. It's not as easy as just like, here are the grants.
I sit on the grant committee along with Kathy as well. We know exactly what's required for the documents to be submitted.
And
to
as
us
a
for
developer
review.
and as a business owner, I know it on the other side.
I think for me, it's the step before that.
And we do have
Like, I feel like
tons of meetings with people about zoning, and where people might get frustrated with like the Freddy's property is that's an expired non-conforming use, the restaurant in the basement. There are some tools for properties like that, like the overlay zones, the local
Which we just
conversion.
did on Center Street.
Right, there are those kinds of tools, but typically, people are wanting to put stuff in there that not only does the code not allow, we don't really want, like rooming house. We get a lot of interest sometimes, and people want just to turn a house into a rooming house. We're like, no, you can't just go into the middle of a neighborhood and create a rooming house. We allow that in commercial zones. Or they want to do some kind of, we get a ton of inquiries about like residential rehab treatment facilities, which also cannot go into residential neighborhoods. So if that's what they're hoping for, there's not really a solution. If the mayor and council are going to tell us that, oh, by the way, we would like to change the code and allow rooming houses in our residential zones, then that's something that could be changed with the code, but right now it's not allowed. And so if they're coming to us with those kinds of plans, there isn't a way to make them happy with that unless the council wants to change the code.
So I hear really great things from folks that come into town. Like, was today or yesterday was the Bailey grand opening. That family-owned business said that, just praised everyone within, that it was an amazing process. They were able to go through it and it was well. But then I also hear from folks that they do not want to invest in anything in Hagerstown because they don't have to go through the same things in the county that they do in the city, and with the also understanding that in the county is much less close together, and that's the reason why there is things in place. But it's just easier if they take their investment, if they have a small investment and it's just a small family trying to do some of this, it's easier just to go into the county. And so I've heard different things like, I want to invest in Hagerstown, except for the process is really, really difficult and really hard to understand as someone who's coming in and wants to, invest. I hear it was easier for me to go to Frederick and just invest and get a property downtown and start a business. I hear that, but I hear also that there's great things happening. That's why I was kind of asking, for some of us to just, talk about some of these things, because I think that it's important. As someone that listens to a lot of conflict, I hear it equally. I hear, oh my God, this has been amazing, and then I hear that there are some things that is probably, maybe it's your staff is overwhelmed because they haven't had, this much development in a while, but it would be easier if this process became much less hard, right? And so
Well, and Madam Mayor, I think that, it goes back to our social conversations that we had recently where we hear both sides. We hear like, Hagerstown downtown is incredibly safe.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Hagerstown has
Yep.
a homeless, wraparound services, and it's all great. And then you have all these other people that don't come downtown because they don't feel like it's safe, right? So there's where listening to the stakeholders and the developers without fear of retaliation, and I'm going to repeat that, without fear of retaliation, to come in and be incredibly open and honest with the new body and with all of you.
And I have heard that as well. I've heard that there is fear of retaliation. And so again, as someone who creates safe spaces, and I don't know what that looks like, but as someone who creates safe spaces for people to have conversations, as long as they don't fear retaliation, it's like you can't bring people, what people have said to me is, I don't want to come and sit before your code or anyone because I am scared that I will have to pay for that in the long run. Again, that's just one side of a story. I'm in the business of conflict. I hear, people blame other people, they say things and you get everyone together, and that's not the case. But I do hear that there is fear of retaliation. And again, I don't know if that's the case, but you do have some folks that have put investment into downtown, that have, worked through the process that I didn't reach out to you because I was scared that I would have to do something else along with code. And I don't know but I've heard that.
What I heard more recently was that we sent out surveys to everyone after they worked with our office to see, get feedback from our customers to see, how are we doing? How is our job? And I heard recently they said, well, if you don't do a good survey and give them good reviews, then they will hold up your permit. We send out the surveys after all of the permit is completed. We don't know, and they don't even go to our department. They're anonymous. They go to communications. So there's those words that go out there that are spread that aren't always accurate depictions of what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's always a challenge with anything along those lines. And to go with Councilmember Schindler's first question, what can help with everything? And that's communications. People need to communicate. Whenever I'm involved with any progress meeting, a business wants to open up, whatever the scenarios are, I always ask that I say, other than yesterday, what day do you want to open? Because we know that the business that started the project and wanted to be open already before they got to this point where we were having a meeting. So the problems that we come into is that when the businesses weren't keeping us in the loop, weren't keeping DCED in the loop, they just wanted to open, got their permit for stuff, and then are frustrated they haven't opened because they're not communicating anything with the office, or they didn't read all the materials that were provided that said what type of inspections you need to do, what things you need to complete to get to a certain stage in the process to open. When Blaine and I offer all the times pre-development meetings with people, DCED does it as well. We attend those. We do pre-application meetings. We started that a long time ago where people, before they apply for a permit, can meet with us just to go over what things. We'll get the fire marshal involved as well. Blaine and myself will all be there. We'll review the plans on a high level. We're not doing a plan review right in front of them, but just can point out the big things that might be wrong that would hold up their application, and a little bit more time review in it if they addressed it. We do those. We do before the project actually starts. We ask for pre-construction meetings on site. We ask for that for very small meetings, even just to meet with the building inspector. And Blaine, I'm keep on looking at you because I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. But even if it's a small project of building a deck off your house, because Blaine will take almost any application that someone submits to our office that's a pencil drawing, a pen drawing, whatever, that might not even know what size support post they're using or how they're anchoring it to the building. They just want to build a deck off their house. Blaine will accept it, provide comments off of it so that the permit can get out and issued, and then we address it through the inspection part. So a lot of departments don't accept it that way. You mentioned the county. County only accepts architectural drawings anymore. They will not accept those hand-drawn drawings that we accept here. So we try to be more customer-friendly by keeping those hand-drawn drawings. Commercial projects, though, we'll have to have an architect involved. But we'll offer the pre-construction meetings with any of the people that have gotten permits with us. And then we'll offer, they'll attend progress meetings or site visits or anything along those lines. Once the project's going along, a lot of times I'll send out emails and letting people know where they are in the inspection process, what inspections do you have left that you need to complete? Here was the last approval that you had with our office. they get me involved from the very beginning, I'll do that. The only one that I volunteered did without their request is WCPS, because in the summers, they need to get them done quick for the school projects. So I'm always keeping them up to date on when they need to get that permit done and where we stand on occupancy.
We understand that communication is the key, that people, if we're both communicating, then there's less likely to be surprises, and usually the surprises are, you want to be open tomorrow. So if we're communicating all along, the challenge that we have is there's a lot of, particularly local folks that don't take us up on it. They don't want to keep us in the loop. They don't want to have the pre-construction meeting. They just don't want us involved. And that means there is no communication. And it's always a problem if there's no communication.
So, Madam Mayor, you asked about kind of going through this document, the question.
Even if you just pick one.
And I just think that, and, because I'd like to zoom back out to 50,000 feet. And because that's personally the way I'm looking at all this. Because we could probably spend all night and tomorrow talking about process and what's, the right way to do things. But that's not our role, at least not the way I see it. But I think I could kind of characterize the majority of these comments and the questions about them in this way, because Councilman Schindler mentioned in his opening remark or opening comment about the phrase, how do we get to yes? And that's a phrase that I'm kind of fond of. And it also, there's kind of a corollary phrase that John Lydgate said, I think 100 years ago, you can please some of the people all of the time. You can please some of the people, or all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all the time. And that is the dilemma that I'm sure every government agency at all levels, deals with. So at the 50,000 foot view that I was mentioning, to me, the how do we get to yes answer is adjusting as I'm sure you already do, adjusting the approach to the sophistication of the customer, because that's the way I look at it. Anybody comes into any of your offices and is looking for a permit or planning approval or whatever, they're the customer. And, as you said earlier, you're right. Amazon, using them as an example because they happen to be a big presence in Hagerstown right now. Amazon has a whole different level of sophistication than, the person that comes in that maybe owns a duplex or a couple of duplexes and is trying to figure it out. And it's that difference that I think we wind up hearing about because maybe sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong with this, but maybe sometimes it gets so routine or so regular that, okay, we got to go through all these processes, we got to do all these steps. And, the little guy doesn't know all of that. I mean, it's not their fault. It's not your fault. It's nobody's fault. It's just a matter of figuring out a customer service approach. And again, I use the phrase, how do we get to yes? That doesn't mean, by the way, that the answer is always yes. Because there's a couple of examples you gave as I glanced through here, there are issues that, sometimes the answer is just no. No, you can't do that. No, you can't build a boarding house. That's not what we do in Hagerstown. I'm just generally using that as an example. The other thing in this packet, and I'm not sure, I think it was just part of a conversation, was something about voluntary compliance. I don't think that's the role of government either. I mean, at the end of the day, you're here because it's our responsibility as city government, right, to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of everybody that lives here, whether they're a property owner, whether they're a property tenant, whether they're just walking down the street, right? So that's the way I look at it. And so it is a bigger picture, quick picture question, and certainly a bigger conversation that we're going to have, this evening. But I would encourage, and by the way, I did glance at your training, which, has in here the third bullet, 2024 customer service training and the description of that, which is fantastic. But the last one was 6 years before that, you know? So I'm thinking, as you're kind of looking at what is the approach to all of this, maybe that's an annual thing. Maybe that's, Mr. Administrator, across the board. Because there's a lot of customer service that we provide, you know, to our constituents from the city of Hagerstown. And I'm not saying it's because anybody's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying because when you're doing the same work routinely, day after day after day, for you, it makes a lot of sense that this is the next thing that has to happen. But I think what you heard from Councilwoman McIntyre is, for some people, they don't know that that's the next thing that's supposed to happen or why. So that would be my encouragement. I appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to review the discussion in July and try to digest it and try to come back with, you know, what your thoughts are and so forth. But again, for me, I don't think it's our role to tell anybody here, any staff, how to do their job. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it's not, because I've read the charter, and that's not our role. Our role is to make recommendations. Our role is to set, you know, the direction of government. And then your role, as I'm looking out into the audience, is mostly the staff here tonight, is to execute them. And so, so those are my thoughts, kind of combine that with my earlier thoughts of reorganization, and I hope that we have that conversation, you know, going forward in the relatively near future, so that when you start working with Michelle in the finance department in January or February for for budgeting for fiscal year 26, that this is the thought that's kind of overlapping, you know, that process. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for letting me say that.
Is me? Am I next? Oh. Well, thank you. Thank you for all the information. I think this is helpful. Also, when we get complaints and emails with this kind of information, we're able to respond with having this readily available. So I thank you for that. But like everyone's mentioned, like the process may seem tedious or sounds tedious, and staffing is an issue. So, and for me, an ideal situation would be to have a team, like a coordinator or liaison underneath of you guys that could respond to the questions that developers, small businesses may have. How do I do this? And sit with them and work with them, and they'll be the ones to communicate when their permits are expiring or what have you. I think that would help alleviate time for the inspector to do their role and have other people, you know, be that that coordinator. I think there's just so much information that goes with any of this that it seems overwhelming, but to have like a dedicated group assigned to just that, I think would help a lot. So staffing definitely would help that, because I don't like to hear that it's difficult to start a business here because of code or whatever issues. We've been promoting, you know, everyone to come here, work, play, and, you know, start families and whatnot. And I just feel like there's also a miscommunication. You mentioned there's emails sent out. Is that working? Is there letters that making sure that addresses are correct? Is that working? Again, that coordinator role could confirm and make sure that the people are getting those notices or getting the information, so the inspectors can do their part. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that last point you brought up is a fairly important one, because and again, like I said, this document here that you provided is a very good synopsis of all of the things that city staff has done over the last 10 years to address, you know, just about every iteration of these generalized complaints through the political process as they've arisen. And that's the reality of it, right? And when I read through this document, you know, one of the things that I noted was on page 6, under virtual meetings, then hit notation of the audio system in the first floor room, right? I also noted on, I guess it was page 4, about the difficulties with having somebody to answer the phone, right? Because everybody wants an answer now on so many different items, and oftentimes, the answer of, I have to take your number and have the inspector call you isn't a good enough answer. And I get that it's an appropriate answer, but for a lot of people, it's just not the good enough answer at the moment, which then the emails, come here. And so for me, when I look through this document, I like how you've broken it out, number one, and I like that for me, being able to compartmentalize it, because I want to know of those multitude of things, what things are working, meaning, where are the areas that folks contacting the Economic Development Department, contacting you guys, are embracing, and those things that have no real traction. Facebook interaction and TikTok posts, things like that you rightly point out, you just don't have the staff, capacity to be focused on that stuff. I'd be real interested, you mentioned the surveys of, what is the level of response? In other words, if you got this survey system set up and you're getting 2 or 3 a year, what is that level of response? Because this body doesn't see that, and I don't know that we should, you know what I mean? But I'm saying, I don't know what that is. And so I would want to make sure that whatever you are doing of the 70 things in here, that we know what is being embraced and what isn't being, number one. And I think to Councilmember McIntyre's point, one of the things that applicants and folks on the receiving end want that they don't feel they're currently getting out of these multitude of things. What items are too confusing to engage in, or difficult to find, or not aware of, things like that. How successful has the door hanger program been in curbing some of the response you might get from telling somebody that your grass is too high, you et cetera, et cetera. So I think to your point of what's working and what's not working is something that has to be evaluated. And I don't know if you guys already do that or how you do it, but if you weren't getting a good responsiveness to one thing, I would just say why keep doing it if the point is to address some item that was heard at some point in the 10 years worth of political posturing over these types of issues.
I think one of the things that creates the biggest frustration amongst the developers, the smaller scale developers, is if their budget is too tight. But it's the best that they can do with their budget. But the problem is they only have so much money that they're willing to spend on an architect. They only have so much money they're willing to spend on someone who's doing the building, that is experienced doing building, knows what they have to do. And so when they run up to the roadblock of, I don't know what to do anymore, and I've expended all the resources I have, then they come to Blaine and they say, tell me what I need to do. That, by state code, is not what Blaine is for. Blaine is not the one who's supposed to design the project for you. He's supposed to review the design you bring to him. We have a lot of folks who, they've expended what they plan to expend, and they still don't know what to do next. And they want us to say, just tell me what I need to do. Just tell me. And every code requirement has multiple ways to be solved, as I've been told many times by these two here. And each solution comes with a different price tag, and the property owner and the designer need to figure out which one makes the most sense for me and my budget. And so that's why it's not set up for local government to design projects for you. We're just to see if you're meeting the minimum code requirements. And so that's the biggest frustration, where we get the most anger is often because of that.
I think that we went to, I don't know which administration it was, or if Scott was in your position yet, where we were at an MML conference, and the gentleman that was speaking, I actually tried to figure this out, but I can't, said that within code and economic development, for cities throughout the state, that each municipality has to figure out how to lower the barrier to entry. And not eliminating the code, because the code is the code, and that is not what my intention, nor anyone in this body's intention is to change it and reverse it. But it really is, we have the opportunity, the next administration has the opportunity to change the narrative that it really is okay to come back and do business in Hagerstown. That it's okay to develop here again. That we have let the stadium do its job by encouraging development, which as we can see is happening, and really, really figure out what it looks like to lower the barriers to entry and change the narrative where our neighboring cities, it's not great to do business in Frederick, but not in Hagerstown. It's not great to do business in West Virginia and not in Hagerstown because, like you've heard, that's what it kind of feels like and what we've heard. So I think that here is the opportunity for a city deputy administrator to be that liaison between the GHCs and the Chamber of Commerce and the developers and come back to you and really work on a solution that truly opens us up for business in every sense of the word. And I hear everything, the surveys, it's hard to do, there's you're overworked, things like that, but we have the opportunity to change that, just like we're changing things with all of the social issues that we're working on. So
I'll just remind the council is that, like you mentioned in West Virginia, that we have to keep what's focused on the state of Maryland. We can't compare ourselves to other states because the states put certain mandates
I'm
in
not talking
front
about
of it.
mandates, Paul. I'm talking about just the perception that it's easy to do business.
Correct, but like, for the example of West Virginia, like you mentioned, West Virginia, you can apply for just a building permit to get you all of your trade permits at the exact same time, where in Maryland, that's not permitted. So it's one of those things that there are barriers that are perceived out by the developers that, well, I could do this in West Virginia, why can't I do this here? And that's where some of those challenges come, where we can't lower a certain barrier, we might be able to make something a little more streamlined, but it has challenges with it.
And just like Councilmember Perini said, a no is a no. I mean, our code in different states is absolutely different. This is a philosophical change. It's a philosophical change. And again, there's an opportunity to make that change.
I'll echo that. And I'll echo also, I really appreciate this document that you guys provided, with the blue writing. That is a very helpful guideline of everything that's kind of comprehensive of what's going on right now. But that's just it. I think I personally would like to see how can we, whether it's additional staffing, restructuring in some way, reconfiguring, what tools can we give to help to change that perspective and to bolster your department so that we can give kind of a wraparound more, or at least to what's perceived or what feels to be more of a wraparound service to folks when they're coming in and they want to open a new restaurant or a new business. And like you said, we have some folks that come out with it and on the other side of it, they have a great experience. Like Madam Mayor said, some folks come and they had a wonderful experience and a wonderful takeaway. And then we get folks on the other side of the coin. And usually when you get two very differing points of view, the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. There's usually some good, some really good things there, and there's usually some room for improvement there. So, I personally would just like to come away with this in some way that we can, I'm not sure exactly what it looks like, and I know we've already run over, the time we allotted today. We certainly won't fix it today here, but I appreciate the candid conversation because, as a body, I think it's important we talk to you guys and see what we can do to bolster you guys, to make it a better experience for you guys from a staffing and just a workload and in the structural piece, and then also from the consumer side, to make it a better experience. So that's my goal. It's just to see what we can do to make it better for everyone involved. And I don't know, coming after this, maybe part of it's budget time talking, maybe part of it's, I don't know if we do some sort of work group or something smaller to try to incorporate some feedback or
Not picker.
No, but, you know, to try and see like what things that you guys struggle with that we might be able to affect and help, things like that, so.
And what we'll offer to all the administrations, I know Councilmember McIntyre has done in the past, is right along with the department, so you can kind of, you know, feel what it is that we're kind of experienced during the day, so they can help on guiding some of those processes that we potentially need to do. I do ride-alongs with other jurisdictions all the time. Like we've mentioned Frederick several times. I'm going there in 2 weeks to do a ride-along with their code office. So I try to do ride-alongs to see how do they interact with their staff? How do they enforce codes as well for all around the state? Even going out of state to do stuff as well, just to see how is it to work with those departments. So that's something that I offer to all of this council, is to certainly do a ride-along so we can help guide that conversation.
Thank you.
At what step do you guys get involved?
As far as
As
compared.
far as like, do you guys get involved when there's an application for a permit? That's the first step
Sometimes it's before that,
before that?
because we encourage the before.
How do
Not
you know the
everyone takes us
before?
up on it.
Like what, how do you know the before?
If the-
Because they usually call to find out, what does zoning allow me to do? You know, I'm looking at this building, can I do this? And so that's before an application is made. And we usually then, well, let's have a meeting. Come in, let's sit down. We'll get everybody together so you know, because oftentimes the folks who have the most challenging budgets, they're looking at our most challenging buildings as well, which is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. But so that they really need to talk to folks, figure out, all right, this is really an affordable buy for me. What's going on with this building? Or like, well, this is what we know about the building so far. We're happy to share that kind of information. And then what's going to be required, but that is also a challenge in the city, unlike in the county. We have a lot of really old buildings, many of which have just been allowed to sit. They may come up with a price that seems attractive, but that you got to remember, you're getting what you paid for. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be a lot of challenges.
Thank you. The reason
So
why
we
I asked
encourage
that-
the meetings.
The reason why I asked that, because I'm trying to figure out a way to go back to the workshop proposal that I made in July, like a working group, a working session, or whatever you want to call it. It's public, of course. And break down steps in the process, and we'll work on that each step. So if there is the beginning step of people calling and inquiring about the process, what does that look like? Is there a way to improve that step? And then next, if the next step is the application, what does that look like? What can be done to improve, or is there any other information that people should know about? And then so forth, like how to break it down into like we did with the stakeholder conversation. We broke up the individual issues, like kind of one by one, and went from there. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do the same thing with the process in itself and how we can improve step by step. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I asked that question.
They pick me, I do flow charts all the time on how we do processes
flow
in our
charts.
department. So I have my tool cat, yes, it sounds like a flow chart. We have
You can
them
make
for a
them
lot of processes.
ridiculously complicated. I always like to see those. Like some kind of
That was our
rule-over
citation
thing.
process with our attorney. That one looked very challenging, but certainly something like that we can bring to a table and talk about those. And that's when you have those discussions, so you can figure out what process is really needed versus what's not needed.
And then for the people to hear what that looks like too. So you don't have to you want to repeat yourself. People don't always watch your meetings or whatnot, but at least for awareness, like this is what you do as step one, and this is how you get involved, et cetera. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to keep this conversation going, but be more focused on solutions and getting to a yes with all of us on how to move forward.
And
To keep the conversation going with it is, I think we have three meetings for this.
I'm not even saying like this administration, but
Right.
I think you should move.
in its entirety, should
Yeah.
keep on moving
So,
with or without this.
yeah, I want, just because I'm very principled. And, for me, I like this because, again, this shows me the conflict. This shows me where there needs to be some clarification on communication and all those things. And so I don't share what I've heard to say that any of you guys have done anything wrong. I share what I've heard on the mic because I want the people that have talked to me to know that I heard them and that I relayed the message to everyone, including the elected body. I am very protective of any process. I'm very protective of it because I believe that processes are in place to keep things and people safe, and I'm very protective. And so I have conversations on the other side of things with people all the time and ask them, to clarify, is this something you've experienced, or was it 10 years ago that you experienced it? I ask those questions to kind of unpack that. I appreciate what you guys do, especially during this administration where you've had more development than you've had in a very long time and a lot of change. And I hear great things, probably about equally about the entire process. And so again, I'm not coming from a place of, anything was being done wrong. I'm coming from a place from I hear the people that are emailing or calling or catching me on the street or want to talk about, different things and investing in Hagerstown. I also, I'm very protective of Hagerstown. I don't know if y'all know that, but I am. I'm very protective of the language. I'm very protective of what people may have heard a piece of a conversation and don't know the other part. And so that's why I just wanted to kind of know that I see this and I read this, and especially the first couple of ones. And so for me, as the mayor of the city, this makes me feel like we need to have conversations with our staff to help them understand that the presentation was not to say, what this may have felt like it was being said. Did that make sense? So that was why I had the examples that I had. Do you guys have anything else? Kristen? No. How about you guys? Do you have anything else?
This is the third time I've been through this.
Blaine didn't say anything, so. Blaine-
I didn't say anything, but I think I'm going to say something now, just because, as you can see from what's been provided, throughout the years, when things have been brought to our attention, we've made tweaks in our processes. We make tweaks in things that we do. Glad to keep making tweaks. That's what it's all about. The only thing that I'm going to request is in future conversations, because I see us having quite a few conversations about this, if you could provide specific examples, I'm not talking names, I'm not talking addresses, but if we have specific examples of what you're hearing, that's going to help us. It's going to go a long way for us to make changes and improve and fix those problems, because just like being a technician, I can't go out and work on a piece of equipment unless I know exactly what it's doing. I can't fix it. So if you can provide examples in the future when we meet, that'd be wonderful.
Thank you, Blaine. I agree. I agree. It helps. I mean, I tell people all the time, I can't, if you're scared to go to have the conversation because of fear of retaliation, I can't fix the conflict. And so there's nothing that we can do. So I agree that there has to be conversations and examples, and there is ways for confidentiality to happen around folks, but still come and share some very candid examples with you guys. So thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Okay, thank you.
Federal lobbyist contract.
Yeah, just very quick. We did release an RFP to get interest in any firms that would want to be a federal lobbyist. For the city of Hagerstown, we got 11 responses back. Councilman Preen and I whittled those down to 6. Whittled them down to 6. Sent those 6 a questionnaire with requesting additional information and more specifics. Out of those questionnaires, they all returned a questionnaire. Out of those, we picked 2 finalists. We interviewed those 2 finalists, and we will be working with one group that we will come back with to mayor and council, hopefully before this administration is over. Once we look through the contract and bring a recommendation to you to approve to move forward. We were very pleased with the response we got. There were some familiar names in there and there were some unfamiliar names in there, but all of them expressed a sincere interest and knew Hagerstown and knew what is happening in Hagerstown, and were extremely interested in working with us. And I think the one that Councilman Perini and I have evaluated, and also finance staff have evaluated, could be a very, very good opportunity for us. So that was really just the opportunity to let you know where that was going.
That is really exciting. Thank you, Councilmember Perini, for even bringing it to our attention. So it's going to be a great thing for the city for sure.
Did you say they were local, meaning, or just no?
Well, they're really all local because they're all in DC or in the area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Local to the- Okay, nice.
Thank you.
Great. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you. We adjourn for 10 minutes.
Ooh, finished early.
First. I have to do this. Good evening and welcome to the October 22nd, 2024 regular session for the mayor and city council for the city of Hagerstown. This meeting is now called to order. And first, we will have invocation given by Pastor Les McIntosh of Impact Ministries, and followed right behind that, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and please stand. Dr. Mack, to the podium, please.
Dear Heavenly Gracious Father, we come to you right now. We say thank you. Thank you for all that you have already done. You are the beginning and the end and everything in between. But as we are in this session, we actually look upon everyone that's in this room, look upon all the representatives, look upon our mayor, look upon our council, and God, help guide them as they lead us and govern us for today and for tomorrow. Look upon each citizen one by one and name by name. And what comes from this meeting, help us with your providing hand that we'll be able to have peace, protection, and prosperity through you. In this we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Some announcements, rules of procedure effective December 15th, 2020. Use of cell phones during meetings is restricted. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk, and it should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. Our meeting schedule for November is Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. There is no meeting scheduled. That is Election Day. Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, we have a work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, November 19th is a regular session at 7 p.m. Wednesday, November 20th, 2024, meet with Washington County delegation at Hagerstown Community College, time to be announced. Thursday, November 21st, 2024, informal orientation for newly elected officials, location and time also to be announced. Monday, November 25th, 2024, oath of office for new administration, location and time to be announced. Tuesday, November 26th, first work session of the new administration, and time and location does not need to be to announce, it will be here. And I have some appointments. So Hagerstown Youth Council Partner Group members for their term to expire August 27th, 2025, Christopher Keene and Angela Yamishita. I need.
And Tressa.
Tressa's already approved, just these two. Tressa's just getting sworn in.
She was over this year.
Oh.
That was a typo.
She's back there pointing to her.
Let me see this.
Okay, all right. And Tressa Nice Warner.
I can see them back there.
Motion.
No, need a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve Christopher Keene and Angela Yamashita and Tressa Nicewarner to the Hagerstown Youth Council Partner Group as members, and their terms to expire August 27, 2025.
I don't know.
Everybody. Terry.
It's bang, bang. Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Tressa, would you please join me up front for something to swear you in? And oh, Christopher's also here as well. Hi, Christopher. Yes, please join me up front.
Christopher's going to change the world.
All right. Will you raise your right hand for me, please? Yes, at the same time. Yep. And or you'll repeat after me and you'll just say your name. Don't say your name. Say actually what your name is. All right. I,
Christopher Keene,
do swear
do swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and the charter and ordinances
and the charter and ordinances
of the city of Hagerstown,
of the city of Hagerstown,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of
execute the office of
Hagerstown Youth Council Partner Group
Hagerstown Youth Council Partner Group,
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
Congratulations. Please sign the book.
Okay,
Yes, the book.
Tressa is here from being appointed in August.
Yes.
And Christopher would be here.
Yes. So Tressa, you were appointed in August. You're just being sworn in this time. So if you would sign right here. And I'm sorry, so your husband can get that shot. We'll do a group with the both of you guys afterwards. And would you please? How are we doing?
Nice. Good. Yeah, right there.
Down here? Make sure he's not hiding. All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, here you guys good? Okay, here we go. Good files. 1, 2, 3. One more. Good files. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, clap. I'm gonna stay here. Which one's first? Dyslexia. All right. I have a special recognition for Dyslexia Awareness Month. And so would you two please join me and bring your children and anyone else along with you, Bianca and Amanda. I was gonna say raise your right hand, but I'm gonna swear you. Special recognition for Dyslexia Awareness Month. Whereas October is recognized as National Dyslexia Awareness Month. Dyslexia is the most common learning disability in children and persists throughout life, affecting 1 of every 5 people, regardless of race, gender, age, or socioeconomic status. And whereas dyslexia is a specific learning disorder that is neurobiological in origin and is characterized by difficulties with word recognition, spelling, and decoding abilities. And whereas early diagnosis and identification of dyslexia is critical to ensure that individuals with dyslexia receive focused, evidence-based intervention that leads to the promotion of self-awareness and self-empowerment, and the provision of necessary accommodations to ensure school and life success. Now, therefore, with the support of the City Council, I, Takesha Martinez, Mayor of the City of Hagerstown, do hereby proclaim October 2024 as National Dyslexia Awareness Month and encourage our citizens to support individuals with this learning disability. Thank you, too, for your advocacy and your hard work. Thank you for fighting tooth and nail for your children. And would you like to say? Sure. Could you probably
You
stand?
just talked over here.
Okay, yep.
Just talk.
Okay. Thank you very much for this recognition. Dyslexia, as you mentioned, affects 1 in 5 children, adults, people in the community. It is one of the top learning disabilities in the school system, and we really are advocating for not only change in policy in the education system, but also making awareness for the parents and kids and anybody in the community. We are doing a dyslexia simulation on November 9th. Everyone is welcome and invited. It's actually right across the street at Workman Photography at 2 o'clock, where you can come and experience what it's like for a student to be dyslexic in a classroom. So,
Say who is we?
we as the Coding Dyslexia Washington County chapter, we're a parent-led volunteer group. So thank you.
And Amanda's a former city employee that we let get away.
Yes, welcome back.
Yeah. Logan. Everybody else has Logan here today.
One, two, three. My work gets smiles and 1, 2, 3. Okay?
Thank you. Well, what about the proclamation for Economic Development Week? Don't everybody run at once. Look at that. All right. The proclamation for Economic Development Week, October 21st through 25th, 2024. Whereas the City of Hagerstown Department of Community and Economic Development is an active member of the Maryland Economic Development Association, MEDA. Established in 1961, MEDA is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to enhance the knowledge and skills of its members and to encourage partnerships and networking opportunities to bring jobs and investment to Maryland. And whereas MEDA members promote the economic well-being of Maryland by working to improve the state's business climate and the professionalism of those in the field of economic development, including other professionals with an interest in the economy of Maryland. And through its regular meetings, special programs, and projects, members address diverse issues. And whereas the economic growth and stability of the state affects all regions and jurisdictions of Maryland, and the state of Hagerstown is an important component of the state's economic success. Now, therefore, I, Takesha Martinez, Mayor of the City of Hagerstown, do hereby proclaim the week of October 21st through 25th, 2024 as Economic Development Week in Hagerstown, Maryland, and encourage all our citizens to recognize and reaffirm the importance of business development locally and statewide. Thank you so much for all the work that you do.
So economic development is not just a one person or one team thing. It's not only our department, but we work closely together every single day with Public Works, Planning and Code, Engineering, and every other department within the city and outside the city for that matter, to make projects work and happen, bring the small dreams to reality. And I'll leave it to the next one.
We also would like to thank our community partners in economic development. That would include the Chamber of Commerce, the Washington County Department of Business and Economic Development, the Greater Hagerstown Committee, the Small Business Development Center. We have a whole network of community resources that we pull together to help businesses succeed here in our town. And to celebrate Economic Development Week, this week we will be doing some business visits over the next few days and posting those pictures on social media. And we also want to encourage everyone to get involved on Friday. If you want to wear merchandise or branded material from your favorite Hagerstown businesses, that would be a great way for us all to show our spirit and support of economic development and support local businesses as well.
They said it all.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and 1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. This is our agenda item, citizen comments, and citizen comments on agenda items shall be limited to topics listed for consideration on this agenda and limited to 3 minutes. And we have one person signed up, Ms. Stephanie Phillips. And please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for your service. Stephanie Phillips, Summit Avenue, Hagerstown. 1, we still need security cameras for blind spots in downtown. 2, we can now prove your EOC has been hacked. Regarding the vehicle that ran me over on January 10th, 2024, walking to the library to watch the joint meeting of the City Council and County Commissioners. A lot went wrong. I'm glad to be alive. A few highlights. The officer who delivered police report at the hospital said the 82-year-old woman was okay and chose not to go to the hospital. I'm guessing they did Maryland law required testing at scene. Some believe this was not an accident. The driver's name on the report is fake, and if she was admitted to the hospital, that would create complications for Medicare billing. Her insurance agent within 48 hours claimed no record in existence with the policy number, police report, location, and date. But when I asked if her client had reported to her, she suddenly found the file. Next offered me an $83 check with barely visible endorsement that said if I agreed not to use the driver's name in public, I declined the offer. When I asked her for her agent number, she stopped answering calls. In addition, the police department refused to let me purchase the traffic cam video and directly receive the CD from them. And the medical report reflects a provocative, disparaging fishing expedition. The last 2 items appear to be the work of Langley or misappropriated military intelligence, making us all look bad. I wasn't backboarded at the scene, wasn't given crutches, should have been kept overnight. My family's been asked to advocate for me while I continue to work on my recovery. The root of the problem is we all probably have the same insurance company, which has caused problems for my family dating back 75 years. In addition, I've asked for protection under the Federal Whistleblower Act, been compiling evidence compiling evidence on other matters as I've been directed by law enforcement, and this is not appreciated by some. Everyone seems to be trying to erase this whole incident as soon as it happened, and events a few days prior to January 9th meeting seem to be a contributing factor, which is a closed-door discussion topic. Early on, I asked the commissioners to please help manage the PR for the best outcome possible for all. We should all work together because of the regional national security interests. I do expect amends. My husband is authorized to handle this matter. Thank you for your consideration and cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Stephanie. There is no one else signed up to speak. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for agenda item comments? There's general citizen comments that will happen right at the end of our session. And there were no emailed comments, I think. All right. Approval of the minutes.
Madam Mayor, hereby move for the approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held on September 10th, 2024, September 16th, 2024, September 17th, 2024, and September 24, 2024.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move that all the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Removal from the table. Approval of an ordinance to amend the city code by repealing and reenacting Chapter 140, the Land Management Code.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve an ordinance to amend the city code by repealing and reenacting chapter.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
This one.
Yeah, yours.
I did one.
What you want all?
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. You're okay.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move to remove the table of the approval of an ordinance to amend city code by repealing and reenacting chapter 140, the Land Management Code. Second.
Discussion?
Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I'm going to vote no again to this removal. My understanding of this item being placed on the table was to have further discussion when has not occurred between the last regular session and today. So I would be a no vote.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No,
Motion carries.
no, just two,
Just 2 noes.
Peter and me.
Peter. Approval of an ordinance, amend the city code by repealing and reenacting chapter 140, the land management code. Oh,
Madam Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve an ordinance to amend the city code by repealing and reenacting Chapter 140 Land Management Code. The reenacted Land Management Code includes a collection of annual revisions for 2024, finalized by the mayor and city council. This reenacted version of the Land Management Code shall be known as version 3.12.
Second.
discussion?
Madam Mayor, I continue to vote no on this because we've not had the aforementioned discussion that I thought we were going to have, further discussion that we thought we were going to have. Plus, I have concerns about with some of the items.
Any more discussion?
Well, it is no secret that I'm opposed to the changes in their totality as presented because of those changes, most specifically to Article 3 definitions, including changes for permissible uses for cannabis.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
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 That's 3 noes. Motion. Approval of a resolution, rescinding ordinance number, did I miss one?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
See.
Moving too fast. Approval of an ordinance amending city code by repealing chapter 230 transient housing and reenacting chapter 230 lodging facilities with amendments.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council to approve an ordinance to amend the city code, amend the code of the city of Hagerstown by repealing chapter 230 transient housing and reenacting chapter 230 lodging facilities with amendments. Specifically, the amendments will, 1, change the title of the ordinance to lodging facilities. 2, add 2 definitions related to the title change. 3, clean up sections of the ordinance with grammatical corrections. And 4, add section on ordinance remaining in effect.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Rescinding ordinance number O-21-22, which determined alley number 2-0105 was no longer needed for a public purchase.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move to approve a resolution to rescind in its entirety ordinance number O-21-22, which quitclaimed 3,645 square feet of alley number 2-105 to Columbia Gas of Maryland, Inc. This action was specifically contingent upon the city affecting the land division required in the purchase agreement, as well as any subsequent amendments to the purchase agreement. The contemplated subdivision was formally withdrawn, and the alley portion shall no longer be quitclaimed in Columbia Gas of Maryland, Inc.
Second.
It was definitely discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of a resolution, termination agreement for 100 North Potomac Street Student Housing Project.
Madam Mayor, hereby move for the mayor and city council to adopt a resolution to enter into the attached termination agreement for the student housing project located at 100 North Potomac Street. Staff may make administrative edits as necessary. Edits as needed for clarification.
Yeah,
Second.
wow, tough time.
Discussion, second by Shannon. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of a resolution approving amendment number 2 to the joint sewer service agreement, area agreement, in accordance with the attached resolution and amendment number 2 to agreement between the city of Hagerstown and the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County.
Madam Mayor, I move that the mayor and city council approve amendment number 2 to the joint sewer service area agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, and the mayor and council of the city of Hagerstown, Maryland, as described herein.
Second.
Discussion?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to point out, this is another good example of the city's cooperation with county requests. Thank you.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of certification, certifying properties to be withheld from the 2025 tax sale pursuant to Section 14-811 of the Tax Property Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland.
Madam Mayor, I move for the mayor and city council to certify the following properties as vacant, unsafe, and unfit for habitation, or as a vacant lot as specifically designated below, and that withholding these properties from the 2025 tax sale administered by the Washington County Treasurer is necessary to eliminate a blighting influence and to prevent tax abandonment of these properties. I further move for the mayor and city council to find that the properties must be criteria outlined in Chapter 224, Tax Sale Property Repurpose Program. The properties to be withheld are as follows: 237 Winter Street, a single-family structure vacant since July 2014. 319 Wakefield Road, a single-family structure vacant since April 2009. 323 Wakefield Road, a single-family structure vacant since April 2016. 204 Devonshire Road, a single-family structure vacant since September 2020. 316 Liberty Street, a single-family structure vacant since December 2016. And 148 West North Avenue, a vacant lot.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval for funding for a community coalition lobbyist.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council authorization of the expenditure of $5,000 from the general fund operating budget in order to contribute towards hiring John Fafaza with the firm of Manis Canning and Associates as the community coalition lobbyist. Other committed partners include the Washington County Commissioners, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Washington County Free Library, Greater Hagerstown Committee, the Community Foundation, Hagerstown Community College, Town of Williamsport, Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and Chief, the Washington County Industrial Foundation.
Second.
Discussion?
Madam Mayor, again, I want to point out that, once again, the city is cooperating and working well with these other partners in the community coalition. And I hope that everybody recognizes that we continue to do so. Thank you.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of free holiday parking in the parking decks and garage.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council to approve holiday parking that allows for free parking each weekend commencing at 5 p.m. Friday evenings and all day Saturday and Sunday in the University District parking deck, the Arts and Entertainment District parking deck, and the Hub City Garage beginning Friday, November 29th, 2024 through Sunday, December 29th, 2024. Paid parking would resume each Monday morning at 6 a.m. Exact dates and times are attached. Full parking operations will resume on Monday, December 30th, 2024. Parking at the street meters and parking lot meters will continue to be free after 5 p.m. on weekdays, every Saturday and Sunday, and on city holidays.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of a motion. Approval of updates to guidelines and application for the Invest Hagerstown Home Ownership Initiative Program.
Madam Mayor, I move for the mayor and city council to approve the attached updated guidelines and application for the Invest Hagerstown Homeownership Initiative Program. Staff may make administrative edits as needed for clarification and administration of the program.
Second.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I'd like to reiterate what Councilman Prini mentioned last week during a work session on this item, that in the future, I would like to see a separate program for first-time home buyers.
I agree.
I'd like to thank staff for taking our feedback on this as well. I know they put a lot of work into it, so thank you.
Any more discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
acceptance. I'm sorry, it's like a single page, okay. Acceptance of a grant from the Maryland Department of Emergency Management.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for the city to accept a grant from the Maryland Department of Emergency Management in the amount of $75,000. These funds will be used to hire an engineering consultant to develop a computer model of a portion of the city's storm drainage system. The grant funds will be matched by $25,000 from the city's stormwater fund.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of after-school program at the Parkside Community Center.
Madam Mayor, hereby move for mayor and council approval for funding of the after-school program at Parkside Community Center. The HHA provides a variety of constructive after-school programs to area youth. This program runs for the 2024 to 2025 school year at a cost of $23,000.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval to accept the Bulletproof Vest Grant.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council's approval to accept a United States Department of Justice Bulletproof Vest Grant in the amount of $12,592.34. This grant will provide 50% reimbursement for body armor purchased by the department.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of an increase in hiring bonus.
Madam Mayor, I move for mayor and council approval to increase the Hagerstown Police Department's signing bonuses effective September 1, 2024 to $40,000 for lateral hires and $30,000 for comparative compliance hires, both being dispensed in $10,000 per year increments. The first will be dispensed after the completion of field training. The second will be dispensed after completing year 2. The remaining will be dispensed upon completion of subsequent years of service, i.e. years 3 and 4. HPD employees who left prior to retirement may be eligible for this incentive.
I think there's more.
There's more?
There is. That's my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion?
And somebody's welcome to amend that and add the remainder.
I'd like to amend the motion to add future modifications to the bonuses will be approved through an executive decision made by the city administrator and director of finance based on funding availability. Discussion on the matter will still be presented to mayor and council prior to the executive approval.
So you need a second on that.
Yes.
I can't second my own motion.
No.
Councilmember Alshar made, Councilmember Green seconded, Councilmember McIntyre amended that motion to add the other language. Here, second on that amended motion.
Is there a second? Is there a second? I think Councilwoman, do you need more?
What? Say that again, Don, I'm sorry.
Say it again, Donna.
Councilmember Alshar made a motion. What was printed on there, he read it to a certain point. It did not include the last paragraph. And Councilmember
Correct.
Green seconded that motion. Then Councilmember McIntyre amended that motion and added that last paragraph.
Second.
Discussion.
Okay.
So, yeah, please.
I'll start. The reason that I didn't add that last part is because this is a significant change and new in that direction. And I want to be absolutely sure that we give the citizens clarity that the mayor and council will make that determination. In the way that I read this last paragraph, it basically says the city administrator, the finance director will make that determination and then just bring it to the mayor and council. That's how I read that. Where my preference is that, especially since, this body won't be here, if this motion were to pass this evening, it's gonna be a new body, that body have the ability to make that determination as a body, should those changes be brought forth, rather than hamstringing them into accepting a motion that prevents the direction for that change at a staff level. And if I misread it, then that's my fault.
I think I must be misreading it, because are you saying that it would not be coming to the mayor and council? Because the last sentence,
Will still be.
yeah, but yours,
It doesn't say
Right.
approval, it says
Right, it-
discussion.
Right, it basically
prior to the
says-
executive approval.
But it says a discussion.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand the term executive there.
We would be the executive approval.
Well, it reads to me that it's an executive decision made by a city administrator and director of
Right.
finance.
But
I
then,
guess I have consternation about, pinning that determination on the next administration who may have differing, opinions on the matter, or the program may have changes that body may, wish to bring forth that may impact, who makes that determination.
So
It is
it's-
absolutely not a reflection that you two can't make that decision in an intelligent, professional, respectable manner. Just, I don't
No,
know
I
what the
understand
preference
that.
that the future administration will want. So that's my first.
Yeah,
I respect that.
I
That's,
appreciate that.
yeah, we can remove that.
So we want to, go ahead,
We're
Michelle.
gonna amend it again.
I was just gonna say, for clarification, the intention is that as long as nothing else is changing, this will be like the third time we've brought back this specific,
Item.
right,
Mhm.
when specific dollar amounts. And every time we put the specific dollar amounts in, they cannot be changed without an additional formal vote. It was not so that we would make changes.
Yeah, I didn't read
and tell
it.
you
Yeah.
we would still come to mayor and council, it would still be like a work session discussion and topic, and then changes would be made.
So
Just from a work session?
the reason that I seconded the motion as it was read, and probably will vote against the amendment as presented, which is adding this section, is twofold. Number one, this part was not discussed with council, to my recollection, when we talked to the chief of police about this process. Number two, the charter provides that a motion can be made, introduced, an ordinance can be introduced, and within 6 days, it can be then approved. It doesn't have to wait 30 days. The charter provides that we can have a special voting session at any time. So I guess my comment back is this body, the mayor and council, isn't going to go away for a year. We're here every week, and we can address this at any time that it needs to be adjusted. That's how I look at it. That's my personal thought on that. It's not anything, a personal affront or anything. It's just a procedural thing for me.
Any more-
Thanks.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion?
I have a second point. Before we consider changes
Okay.
on something that we may vote on. The second is this. It has absolutely not escaped me that this type of action is significant and likely to cause consternation within the department on individuals that dedicate themselves to the department to have the level of HPD we do. For me, this is one tool in a very big toolbox to address exactly what our HPD administrative staff came forward and said they need, and that's additional personnel. That's what you said at the table. You said, what can we do for you right now? And what was unequivocally said, not just by HPD, but by the Washington County Sheriff's Office and the state police folks that were here, is we need additional personnel. This is a tool in that toolbox. I completely understand that that's a big toolbox, and that in pending and upcoming negotiations with that very apt department, we're going to be adding additional tools. We're going to have to consider additional tools within financing for that department to ensure that we have the adequate number of personnel, that we retain the number of personnel to properly provide the level of staffing that department is seeking. So that's my 2 cents on that for folks that may have a differing position.
Thank you for saying what I was going to say, but with more words. Thank you.
Any more discussion?
So I seconded Councilmember Alshir's original proposal minus the last paragraph. I would be in favor of that. I don't know how we go back to that.
I mean, I
Somebody
can
has to remove
remove,
their amendment.
yeah, I can, yeah.
Move your-
Do I remove my own amendment?
You can withdraw the amendment.
Yeah, you can withdraw.
I withdraw my amendment.
You have
I
a
second the
motion and a
withdrawal.
second on the,
Okay,
Okay.
you're fine.
I'm good.
Councilwoman seconds.
Tiara, did you?
Okay.
Okay.
Discussion on that. Do I, right? Do I have to?
You don't have to do
No.
that.
Okay,
You withdrew the amendment, you're
okay.
good.
Okay, so now
Now you've
it's
got
on
a
the
first
upper
and a
mind.
second
All
on the
right.
original that the councilman proposed. We
Got
can
it.
discuss it, vote.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
On the,
On the,
Correct.
as read by the councilman without the last paragraph.
All right, that was the first time. That was pretty sound cool. That's cool. All right. Next, we are under general citizen comments and welcome.
Do we have one more on pay?
That's all that's on our list, on our agenda.
that's not in our packet.
Okay. Okay.
Did I miss something?
I thought I've got this extra one in there. Never mind. Moving on.
Okay. All right. General citizen comments are welcome and shall be limited to 3 minutes. Citizens are welcome to provide comments in person or by sending an email to councilcomments@hagerstownmd.org no later than 5 p.m. the Tuesday of the meeting. Please include your full name, street address, and topic of your comments. You may attach a letter to the email or write your comments in the body of the message. The city clerk will read your name, address, and provide a summary of the comments. The full copy of the comments will be provided for public viewing as part of the minutes. And we have Ms. Karen, is that Dunn?
Yes, Karen Dunn.
Ms. Karen Dunn Swafford, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, hello, my name is Karen Dunn Swafford. My address is 8328 Rikeford Road, Fairplay, Maryland, 21733. And I am a long-term member of the Hagerstown community, and I actually grew up in Fairplay, Maryland, ever since I was 1.5 years old. So Hagerstown's my stomping ground. So I'm pleased to be here in front of you guys today, and I do extend my gratitude for allowing me to speak. I'm here to speak upon behalf of the steam engine locomotive 202. It's currently housed at the Hagerstown City Park Train Hub Museum, and my deep love of history and tradition makes the possibility of the train being moved from Hagerstown a serious matter to me. There are many opportunities for the engine to stay in Hagerstown, as I found in my research. And to give you some of its history, it was donated and commemorated as a gift to the children of the city of Hagerstown back in 1953. The train itself is 112 years old, and it's one of only 2 remaining original 462 Pacific steam locomotive engines made by the Baldwin Locomotive Works based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for the Western Maryland Railway in 1912. So fast forward to the future, in 1984, the locomotive 202 was actually added to the National Register of Historical Places. And then last year, on March 28th of 2023, the mayor and council actually earmarked $750,000 for the cosmetic restoration of the engine and a new pavilion to house it. But since that time, no additional funding has been pursued to help fund the project. And I've done extensive research and found multiple other grants that are available to be submitted to help fund this project as well. And the project is to restore Locomotive 202 to some extent. I realize it's 112 years old. I realize that the metals are rusting and the valves have gone. But I do also feel strongly about keeping it in Hagerstown rather than just donating it to someplace else. The look on the children's faces when they actually get up in the engine and get to pull that bell is an experience. If you have kids, to have them experience it, you can't experience that kind of stuff anywhere else in the entire pretty much the United States to get on a 112-year-old train and actually pull the bell for a kid. It's just amazing. So anyway, if you have not had the opportunity to go down to a train museum event and see these children pulling the bell, I implore you to go. It will change your mind on wanting to get rid of the locomotive. I do want to let you know, there is success in donation drives, GoFundMe accounts. You can make a nonprofit, hold the funds, add more donations to it. There's historical trusts through the Historical Preservation Non-Capital Grant Program, Save America's Treasures Grant, the Historical Preservation Fund grant provided by the National Park Services. That's just to name a few grants that you could actually go after to help restore Locomotive 202. I do agree that right now, it does not look like this beautiful mural that's actually across the street here in Hagerstown. It is in disrepair, which I will actually have pamphlets for you guys or packets for you guys at the end of my presentation as well that will show you more pictures of what it looks like now in disarray. But if the rebidding or the job was too much in the beginning, I believe we do need to get more bids in to see if somebody can complete the work
Thank you.
cheaper. Yes, sorry. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just
Yeah.
want you can finish your thought,
Yeah.
but I just,
Yeah, I could, yes, so
Finish your
anyway,
thought.
it is my duty as a citizen to stand up for cultural and historical values, especially within Hagerstown. And when the issue like Locomotive 202 came up, I cannot just sit at home and do nothing. I do believe it should stay in Hagerstown,
thank you.
whatever that takes. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no one else signed up on citizen comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right, is there any emails? No emails. All right.
We do have these packets to hand you guys, though, just so
Yeah,
you
but
know.
it's-
Oh, sorry. Here you go. Thank you.
Okay, yep, thank you. All right. Thank you.
I won't take that personally.
City Administrator.
I won't take it personally. First, I'd like to congratulate the Choice Neighborhoods team on the acceptance by HUD of their transformation plan outline. This is a huge first milestone in this project, and it may have been one of the first real bellwethers as to how this project is going. And they made it through, and they're continuing work on the draft transformation plan that's due in March 2025. So thanks to Hagerstown Housing Authority, Sean Griffith, David Kump, DCED staff back here in the back, of which I think Jill's the only one left, that have done a fantastic job with Choice Neighborhoods. Also, it's a big week, Halloween week. Friday night is the downtown trick or treat, starting at 5:30. I had this all written down, left in the office. 5:30 to 8:30. Saturday night's a Mummers Parade. As always should be, from what I'm hearing, back to the old days where it's a large number of bands and of course, it's political season, so we'll see, we'll get to see all of that. Friday night is the last ghost tour night at City Park. I took my grandson on Saturday night to the late ghost tour, and it was fantastic. It was sold out. And the folks that do the actual tour are even creeped me out a little bit. So I got my grandson out of there without him apparently not having nightmares that night. So but it was a very, and Emily Conrad's here. She was part of that too. Very cool experience. So go to the website, sign up, and take advantage of it. It's a great opportunity. Also, we got Halloween, H-O-W-L, Halloween at Fairgrounds Dog Park on Saturday morning, and we have drive-through trick or treat Thursday night at Fairgrounds Park. Come in on the Cannon Avenue entrance, and that's always a great event, always packed in there, so please be patient driving through. And I think that's enough for this week.
Thank you. Councilmember Perini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While I have my monthly wonderful things that are happening and things I'm doing to help the city, I wanted to point out something because, social media is interesting. Yeah, as the city administrator just said, we are in political season, and it's always interesting to see what people are willing to put out on social media. And there's a candidate running for this council, for this body, that has taken the position of that he has decided or determined that he's got all the answers for public safety in Hagerstown. And I'm going to read you the things that are listed on this candidate's flyer, if you will, or social media post. Back the blue, hire more police, better benefits, take-home patrol cars, and better safety ordinances. So the reason I want to mention all that is we already do all of that. So these are not new ideas. These are not things that somebody's bringing to the table. These are things that this mayor and council have worked on hard because everyone up here believes in making sure that public safety is strong in Hagerstown. Having said that, had a pretty busy month, all the way back to the previous regular session in September 26th. I represented the mayor and council at the 105th annual meeting. Mayor, were you there? No. Okay. Sorry, it was a month ago. I was trying to remember. So their annual meeting on the 3rd of October, I attended with the city administrator a White House briefing on municipal priorities at the White House complex in Washington, D.C. On the 4th, there was a meeting here in Hagerstown with Maryland Governor Moore. On the 7th, the Maryland Municipal League meeting here at City Hall and a tour of downtown Hagerstown with the MML leadership. On the 9th, there was a council forum. Also on the 9th, I met with ASME leadership. On the 9th, also there was a Washington County Community Coalition meeting, which was mentioned in previous comments. On the 10th, toward the Edgemont Reservoir, which is an asset of the city of Hagerstown on South Mountain. Also on the 10th, meeting with our own delegate, Delegate Brooke Grossman. On the 11th, the Boys and Girls Club celebrated their topping off ceremony of their new facility, which if you're not familiar with that, that's when you put the top or the last piece of steel into the project, and it's kind of a milestone of the project, and we're excited for the Addie Nardi and the Boys and Girls Club. On the 12th, I attended the art show opening at Just Lookin' Gallery called Civil Rights, Civil Wrongs, and actually was able to work with the owner of the gallery to reach out to several children's organizations for her to give tours and discussion of that art show. On the 16th, I attended the Chamber Congressional Forum. Also on the 16th, attended the memorial service for Judge Andrew Wilkinson. And also on the 16th, there was an event at the Maryland Theater recognizing those who are supporting the Maryland Theater. On the 17th, attended the MDOT, Maryland Department of Transportation meeting with Secretary Wingfield here in Washington County. On the 21st, yesterday, attended the fantastic, with the mayor, attended the fantastic grand opening of Bagels and Brew in the Updegraft building. And today, had a meeting and lunch meeting with the Maryland General Assembly Ways and Means Committee, who came here to visit Hagerstown as they're touring parts of Maryland, which is a significant, which also is the committee that Delegate Grossman is on. And it's a significant committee for municipalities because one of their subcommittee topics is local revenue, amongst other things. So, so I had a full month, and it's always an honor to represent the city in any way I can to help support Hagerstown. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Burnett?
So what I'm about to read may be new to some, but I have shared this on social media because I think it's important to remind everyone of the good work that this body, the staff, our stakeholders, and the community has done in its last 4 years. During the 2020-2024 term, which began amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, Mayor and Council remained committed to meeting the needs of Hagerstown residents. Through American Rescue Plan Act funding, we were able to support city staff, enhance public safety with new equipment like fire ladder truck, drones, cameras, and assist nonprofits addressing homelessness, rent, and utility needs. This funding also went towards infrastructure projects addressing blighted and vacant buildings and purchasing over 16,000 trash totes required by our sole waste removal contract bidder, ensuring citizens didn't bear the cost. Additionally, we provided grants to help businesses stay open during a pandemic. This administration has been one of the most diverse in Hagerstown's history, featuring the city's first female mayor, first Black female mayor, and the most women serving at once, from various backgrounds and political affiliations. This diversity has fostered open-mindedness and a commitment to positive change, allowing us to effectively represent and serve Hagerstown's growing population. It has been an honor to work alongside my colleagues, city staff, and community stakeholders to achieve just some of the following accomplishments: community surveys and community meetings, residential developments such as McCleary Hill, road improvement projects, widening a professional court and the Paul Smith Road, downtown development and revitalization, from supporting Emeritus Park, our Hub City Garage, reuse of the M&T Bank for city operations, the Up the Graph Building, Hub City Brewery, Hagerstown Fieldhouse, the Fairgrounds Skate Park, the Wheaton Park Improvement Project, where we just approved for the natural play equipment to be funded. Annexations, public art initiatives throughout the city, the new city branding logo, establishment of a community engagement department, and a creation of community liaison and an alternative response team with HPD. Continuation of grant programs for home ownership, businesses, and rental rehabilitations, upgrades to the Hagerstown Ice Rink and Sports Complex, salary increases for police and fire departments, along with increased firefighting staff, continuation of youth programs such as ENVY and the Hagerstown Youth Council, and funding for summer camps and programs. Operation Take Back to improve neighborhood conditions, Clara Barton Memorial, introduction of the Invoice Cloud Payment Portal for easier utility payments, enterprise zone expansion community meetings, investing in capital improvements for infrastructure, including the water systems, to clean our water. It has been a privilege to serve Hagerstown with such a dedicated team, and here's to the progress we made together. Sorry, I was a little choked up.
I'm crying. Thank you for that. Councilmember Schindler, I need a tissue.
Thank you, Councilwoman Burnett. So I'm not going to try to follow that up, only to say that it's been an honor to serve with all of you here. And as most of you know, this is a supplement to everyone's full-time job. So we all work a full-time job, and then you do this as full-time as we can as well. Lunch breaks and evenings and weekends. So it's a lot of work stated here, and I know everyone here puts in a full-time job on it in addition to their day job. So I appreciate everyone here. Thank you.
Councilwoman McIntyre.
To the young lady, I'm sorry I didn't have your name, but I appreciate your passion for the locomotive. Yeah. And there was, yeah, hello. Your enthusiasm and passion for the project is palpable. So thank you for sharing that. And one thing that you mentioned was like, you felt as if it was your place and your responsibility to notify and make sure that we all understood it too, that it was your job. And that kind of leads into election and all of the people that put their names out there for this upcoming election and for all of you. Because while I may make it look easy and fun and crack jokes, this is hard shit.
Say that.
This is hard. And to all of you, the absolute best of luck, because you deserve to be up here again. And I am thrilled to have been a part of this administration and the prior administration. And when you list all of those things, you know, and Peter, when you first got appointed, I was like, this guy is gonna go on forever about everything he's done over the month. Like, it's something that I'm so not used to. But as each month has progressed and we like look back on all of the things and, you know, that recollection of everything that we've done, it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, you commit coming here every week for an extended period of time and then some. But, you know, when you look back as a whole, it's tremendous, right? Some was not as fun, but it was definitely a valuable experience. And I am still so shocked and grateful that, you know, so many years ago, somehow I walked in here and realized that Kristen Alshire was a man. I did not know that, which is definitely the reason that you should really look and see who you're voting for and examine. Yep, I was like, what? That's weird. I thought he was a girl this whole time. Nope, I did. But I am still shocked that I was, you know, selected and reelected, and it has been a tremendous experience. So the best of luck to all of you, and to all of you that have put your names into the ring in order to serve this beautiful city. That's it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'll start with 202 as well. Karen, thank you so much. Your passion and just your just the way that you lit up speaking about the engine 202 is the same way that my grandson lights up every time that we go into the park. And so I share that with you. I love trains. I love to take my grandkids there. And it wasn't an easy decision. I don't think for anyone on this body, but to be able to take my grandkids and be able to ride 202 and to see 202 and moving kind of is, and not sitting and deteriorating. I believe that's why the council made it, not because we didn't want to see in the gift to the children. And so I just wanted to share that with you, that Councilmember Perini and myself were there for, was a rededication or, and the plaque that day. And it was amazing to see all the kids there. And I mean, I was just at a birthday party that happened there with one of my friend's kids. And so I agree. And I think that that sometimes it is difficult to make a decision. It is difficult to make a decision that could affect the entire city. And when you think about finances and those types of things, I think that the body made the decision a year later that was best at the moment. And so I just wanted to share that because you were straight from your heart. And yes.
Make sure there's one thing everybody's clear on. The decision you all made about Engine 202 was just to have discussions with Western Maryland Scenic Railroad.
Correct.
There is no agreement. There is no, there is nothing yet. That was just the opportunity to pursue talking with them. And I can tell you that we are no further today than we were a month ago, 2 months ago, or however long it's been. So there is no agreement to do anything with 202, except I will tell you that Public Works Director and I are meeting with an individual this week, next week, that also has some ideas. So we are still pursuing ways to keep 202 here and make it to where it is a site that is worth going to. So we are still pursuing those options. I just want to make clear. Thank you, Mayor.
That's good, thank you, because I didn't think that we made a decision, but I wasn't.
No.
Yeah, so thank you for clarifying that, City Administrator. So there we go. It's still ongoing conversation, and the decision to come back to the table and discuss it was even hard within itself.
Right. It will come back to the body as to any progress over an agreement. Yes.
Thank you. All right. I want to say just thank you to the Washington County Department of Social Services for inviting me as their guest speaker for the Foster Parents Lunch Brunch. It was awesome to join my former caseworker who had me from the age of 15 until 18 and a half. She said I wasn't a brat, but I think that I was. But it was an honor to speak with other foster care parents, share my experience, share my perspective, and then also all the things that I can do now as a mediator and those types of things. And so thank you, and thank you to each and every person that makes the decision to foster one of the children within our city and in our county. I want to say thank you to Ms. Wendy Wheaton. She flew here from LA with a film crew. They actually shot some of our city, specifically Wheaton Park, for a documentary in reference to her uncle, four times, so great uncle, Mr. Jacob Wheaton, who, if you guys didn't know, was the first African-American man to vote in the state of Maryland, and he actually voted for Hagerstown mayor. And then also Francis Wheaton, who was the first Black legislator in Minnesota. I got to spend some time with the film crew and with Miss Wendy Wheaton, and they were ecstatic to be in Hagerstown for the first time. They were ecstatic to be in Wheaton Park and being able to see, their ancestor's name and just where he walked at. One of the things that I heard them say is that it would be kind of nice to see a marker or something at the park that actually says why it's named Wheaton Park. It's coming, but why it's named Wheaton Park, and I agree. I think that that's absolutely something to be proud of. And as we get ready to go into the next voting, which is just 2 weeks, and we won't meet again until afterwards, I think that it's very important that we hear that history. That the community knows that history, that the first African-American man to vote in Maryland voted for the Hagerstown mayor. I think that's something to be proud of, as well as one of the first Black legislators in Minnesota was here first. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait to see what they do with it. Wendy Wheaton is a filmmaker and does a lot of different things in LA. I actually looked up some of her work. And I'm glad I didn't know that, because I probably would have been out there fangirling, like, oh my goodness, or trying to get a job. And so I didn't know anything about her until after the fact. But what an honor that she spent 2 days in our city. I want to thank the folks that organized the breast cancer awareness, both the opening ceremony as well as the parade. I absolutely love that day. I don't like pink, but I love to see all of the pink. I love to see so many people just out there to support each other, uplift. One of the things that I constantly heard is that you don't have to go through it alone. And so thank you to everyone that works with Breast Cancer Association in their 35th, their 35th stride and walk and parade was amazing. I want to especially recognize Miss Cora Hurst, who turned 100 years old. Let me tell you, I went and did a surprised her for her birthday, and she doesn't look 100 years young and doesn't move like she's been here 100 years. It was just amazing to talk with her. And also, I think I kind of signed myself for more stuff. I'll be going to the senior meeting. And they have lunch every everything. They have senior meetings at Morgansville. And they do. They have did you say I'm a senior? I mean, I'm getting there. They have a senior meeting that meets every 3 months, and they actually have about 100 folks that show up. And I think that that's amazing, especially looking in some of the churches and that kind of thing. You can't get a large participation. So, and I asked how many folks may be over the age of 90, and they said about 50. Right. Wow. So I'm going. Congratulations to Belly Bagels and Belly Casting Kettle, and congratulations to the King family. That was just an honor for me to see 2 sons and their mom as the manager. It just is it's amazing to see a family business and to see how much that family cared about the project. You can see it. You could just see it as they were getting ready to cut the ribbon. And the bagel was awesome. Really, really good. I haven't had the beer yet, but Scott and I were supposed to go.
And they were open last night.
Were they?
Yeah.
They called me. All right. Hagerstown Area Religious Council. I had a monthly meeting with them. I've been meeting with them once a month since I became mayor. And one of the things that came out of those meetings was the Lighthouse After School Project. And today, we just had a really, really good time, just going back through of the things that we have done together and some other things. Just very thankful for that connection, and I hope that the next administration will keep that seat at the table, whether it's a mayor or council person. It's just it's really good to be able to go in and sit down with folks that say, what can we do? How can we help? And what can we push out? And so they have really good lunches and breakfast stuff as well. I want to say thank you to Delegate Grossman for bringing the Ways and Means Committee here to Hagerstown, the Maryland General Assembly. The lunch was awesome. Is there a theme? I like lunch. I like lunch. It was awesome, but it was really, really, really cool to hear the delegates that had not been to the stadium or had not been to Hagerstown in a while. And just to hear the excitement and the appreciation for the stadium and that project, but then also along on the tour. It was just really, really cool to have the Ways and Means Committee walking through our downtown. And, thank you to staff for, doing the tours, organizing and all those things. And I want to say, Councilwoman Burnett, best of luck. And you absolutely had me crying. It has been an honor. It has been a complete honor to serve with you and I feel like to be able to connect in a different way outside of, being a little bit older. I believe that your leadership is impeccable. I believe that you do this with integrity. With respect. And I just pray that the people choose you again. We need you at the table. And Councilmember Schindler, it's been an honor too. I appreciate the way that you approach problems and situations. I also appreciate your humility and your ability to advocate for something that you strongly believe in. Best of luck to you. Councilwoman McIntyre, man, girl, I'm gonna miss you, but you don't need no luck. You're not there for election day. Councilmember Perini, best of luck to you. And I know this was new. You came into this administration that pretty much already had their mind, and our goals set. But you love Hagerstown and you represent it as well. And best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
And with that, we're adjourned.